This tutorial is going to talk about some very basic ways to adjust the characteristics of your layers in ArcMap so you can create more readable maps. In many cases, you'll just import files. It'll default to just a selection of different colors that doesn't really fit your needs. In this case, we have a municipal boundary. We actually want us to be able to see through that. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the icon down here. We're going to change the fill color to no color. We're going to choose an outline, in this case red, and maybe bump up the outline width. Now we can go into edit symbol, and there's a lot more depth where we can do dash lines and different types of line types in here. But we're going to stick with just this for now. We'll click OK and see that it's changed that municipal boundary. For the water bodies in here, we're just going to click one of our standard blues right here, which has no outline width, so there's not going to be an outline, and the fill color is this blue, which seems appropriate for water bodies in this case. We'll grab the flow lines up top. We'll try to use a similar blue in this case and just say OK. We might beef that up just a little bit to give it a little more punch. All this is going to be a feel based on the size of your page, the scale that you're working at. Finally, we're going to take roads. We're just going to make it a standard arterial street right here. I'm going to zoom in a little closer into our community that we're going to be working with. And what we're also going to do is just go to the ArcGIS online servers, add a base map here of just a standard imagery. Now, depending on your internet speed and the online information that you're trying to pull into your map, it might take some time to pull this data in. It's also going to convert this, and we're just going to close that warning right there because it seems to be working for our aerial image. Now, you can see that some of the stuff is really heavy, including the water bodies. And so what we want to do right here is actually right-click on it and go to Properties. So we've got this heavy blue. We want to tone it down just a little bit. To do that, we're going to go to Display. We're going to change the transparency. 0 means that it is fully opaque. It'll let you go as high as 90% here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tone it down a little. We'll say 35%. You can see that it starts to lessen that water and help it sort of recede. We're going to do the same thing with the base map that we pulled in from online. And we might take that down a little bit more. We'll say 60%. We can hit apply just to see what it's looking like. Okay, maybe we want to go a little higher, so we'll apply that. You can kind of feel that out. Still, I want to take the water bodies down a little more, and this is kind of a back and forth negotiation. You're just sort of eyeballing what's going to be the most appropriate, so we'll keep kind of fiddling with that. Won't do that anymore, but you kind of get the idea. One last thing that we want to do is, if you notice our roads files, most road files are going to be like this. You're going to see that you're going to have some road names in here along with a bunch of other data that you might find, and oftentimes the folks who build these are going to default the labels to those road names. So if we right click on it, we go to the properties, we'll wait for this to come up, and we'll be able to click on the labels tab right here. One thing that's easy to overlook is we actually have to check this to where it will label the feature, and the label field is the road ID, or the name in this case, and so we're just going to say apply. What you're going to notice is it's going to drop it right on top of the name itself in here, or the road itself. We'll zoom in a little closer to see what it looks like at a closer, tighter scale in here. Now you can notice here that we kind of see in here that this is West 4th Street. It's got some other noise around it, some other information. So what we want to do is we're going to go back to the properties. Again, click on the labels tab, and we want to change it from the road ID to what might be the route in this case. We'll try that one. I think it's going to clean it up a little bit for us, right? So instead of the other components, we've got West 4th Street, and that is labeled. Now, for me on roads in particular, I don't love the default where it puts it on top of it. Sometimes that's helpful, but what I've found that I really like is to click on placement properties and put it on the line right here. When you do that, you kind of get this strike through effect. So we got to go do one additional piece where we're going to click on the symbol. We'll click on edit symbol. Then we're going to go to the mask right here. We'll say halo. You can change the size of this. 1.5 is usually a pretty good number. Why don't we just split the difference? We'll say OK with 1.75. We'll apply that as well. We can start to get a feel for what that's going to look like. Now again, all of this is dependent, the font size, all these things are going to be dependent on the scale of your map. So it really depends on what this layout is going to be, how much you're zoomed in. ArcGIS is going to make some cuts for you based on some parameters. If you zoom out too far, what it'll do is just trim and only put the labels for certain streets and not for others. And so you might want to be able to control that a little better. So these are some basics to help get you started as you are beginning to build some just very foundational maps in GIS.